Hello and thank you for joining me for this video. This is the time lapse to go along with the Upcrate 35, which is the July of 2022's box. I used the supplies that were given in the box to do this. I went ahead and sketched out the sketch first before working on the time lapse to do the painting, so it would make the video a bit shorter. And I had a bit of a challenge with the limited palette. You will notice that there is a color that came up that I did not have in my box, and I added a touch of red watercolor that I had to give me some pink hue for the nose, and as well as to turn my dark green color into kind of a brown to work with the piece. It just was not possible given the limited color palette that they gave me, which was black, yellow, white, and light blue. So if I would have had a red in there, it would have been just fine. I had some difficulties with the paints. They work well for the type of paint that they are, being gouache. This is only my second time working with gouache, but they behaved more like an acrylic for me than the watercolor side, because I know it's like a cross in between the two. And the paints kept wanting to dry in my palette rather quickly, so every couple of minutes I had to use my fine mist sprayer and spray down my palette with distilled water to be able to keep it wet and workable. So that in itself was a challenge. Trying to blend the paint on the paper was a bit of a challenge because of how fast that it dried. But I managed to pull through and get the piece finished to where I was at least somewhat satisfied. I did have a couple moments where I fumbled and dropped my brush on the painting, so like on the paw at one point you'll notice a mark, but I managed to get that covered up. I really am not much of a background person. I don't really do backgrounds that often, so I'm not that great with backgrounds, and that's in any medium. I wanted to go with the reference picture, which I got on Pixabay. In the reference picture, the leopard is actually looking towards the right side of the screen, but for this piece I wanted the leopard to face forward, like the leopard's looking off of the paper. And since it's going to be a triptych, as you see, that's broken into 3 parts, I figured that would best work for this kind of layout. This is why I position the face directly in the center. In the reference picture, the sky in the background was more like the sky kind of breaking through the leaves on the trees. And it was kind of a blurred, distant, distorted background. So that was a bit of a challenge. I did use the blue and a lot of the white in there, as you'll see in the video, and you'll notice towards the end that trying to match it with the green and blend it in and get the effect I was looking for was not working for me. So I decided to just paint over it in green and try to match it up with the middle panel background and give it kind of a distorted leafy feel. So I had a lot of trouble with that. That was very frustrating. Apparently with the light blue acrylic, being on the paper already in those spots and then trying to paint back over it with the gouache didn't work very well, even though it had been like that for a couple days and had some time to set. The gouache kind of will still move around a bit even when it's dry. It won't lift completely, but you could still kind of move it and remove color. So that was a bit of an issue. When I kept painting over it, it kept pulling the pigment and the paint I had just put off of what was there before, and the white that I had put on the blue kept showing through, which was extremely frustrating. So I kept letting it dry and coming back and trying to cover it and work the areas. So I got to the point where I was like, okay, this is covered. This is good enough. I'm just going to call it and leave it like it is before I messed anything up completely. At the very end, you'll notice I had this little boo-boo where I accidentally dropped a drop of water on the tree and it ate some of the color. So I had to try to fix that and ended up getting some color over the edge of where the tape was for the border. I managed to get that fixed, but I also, had a bit of an issue trying to get it up enough that where you couldn't see it, because even though it will lift, it will not lift completely. So it was very hard to get that to where you couldn't notice it. The washi tape worked great. It came up exactly like it said. Normally I have to heat it up quite a bit. I didn't have to fight that this time. I did a little bit out of habit at the beginning, but I didn't have to keep the heat gun over the top of it, which was nice. And it didn't take up any of the paper. That was great. So I'm going to leave that here. I did enjoy it. I hope you enjoy the rest of the time lapse.